There's your face.
What's up, everybody? Good morning. It's Wednesday. It's time for the Wednesday Super Show. How are you doing this morning, Gator Pete?
I'm good. Tired, good.
Tired, good.
Living
Good,
the dream.
tired. Good, tired, good.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. For those that missed it, Gator Pete, he is doing a new Identico live show every other Tuesday. They did it last night. You can still watch that on twitch.tv/Identico.
Yes.
Should be up on VOD, and I'm sure Mallow will stick it on YouTube at youtube.com/Identico sometime this week. Yeah,
Yes.
they do let anybody stream on this app.
Anybody.
That's why I'm here.
Anybody.
That is why I'm here. Just hum music like he does for the outro. No, we're not doing that. That's rough. Yeah. Okay. Don't forget to go to gamers7pnw.com. Always check the calendar because it's constantly being updated. It's Wednesday, which means it's draft night. I also think we have Yu-Gi-Oh tonight, so it's going to be one of those.
Look at you. You asked just in time. Yes. Yu-Gi-Oh! Tonight.
Yes, we should be doing Yu-Gi-Oh tonight because last week was no. So yes, this week is the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. And we got some good prize support for you guys, as always.
Thank you for the biddies again.
Yeah.
As always.
Yes, as always. So last week was, or the last one we did 2 weeks ago was like freaking 40 freaking people.
There's a lot.
It was a big tournament.
Martin had to set up extra tables.
Yes, it was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Love having them here.
Yes. So we will see how tonight goes. Don't forget, so that all those start right around 6 o'clock. We have multiple sets that you can draft for your Magic drafting happiness. Yay!
Oh, I can't see it anymore.
So, all right, with that, we're going to jump right into it. Today is the day. SAG's contract expires tonight at midnight, and both sides have requested a federal mediator from the NLRB come in to mediate the talks today to see if they can get through the agreement. What's your over-under, Pete? You think they're going to get it done today?
No. Of course they're not going to get it done today. If the Screenwriters Guild is anything to...
They got the directors done.
Cool. We'll see. I mean, without a director, it don't happen. Without actors, of course it doesn't happen. Actors can be on set without a director, but nothing gets shot.
Yeah.
I think they think in the tier of importance, directors, actors, writers. I think that's where they're thinking.
Yes.
So yeah.
So we got competing articles yesterday afternoon from Deadline and Variety. The one in Deadline, which was essentially planted by the AMPTP, which is the organization that negotiates on behalf of the studios.
Yep.
Basically, it was like, we're willing to hold out on the writers until the new year. Screw you guys, right? We want them to, quote, start losing apartments and houses, and then they'll come back to the table, right?
Dude, F that.
Variety went the other direction and said that because the pipeline's starting to dry up on stuff that was already written and ready to go and be shot, that some of the studios are starting to freak out.
Yes.
Apparently, and there's a report this morning that after that Deadline article came out saying we're willing to hold out until the new year, that there was another conference call last night with the AMPTP that apparently they were screaming over the video call after that article landed like a thud. So, again, both sides have agreed to federal mediation today to see if they can get through the deal. Here are the two big things that are holding these deals up. Very similar ones to the Screenwriters Guild. Number one, AI.
Yep.
Right? This is one you and I have talked about a lot off stream, right? With AI continuing to advance, with deepfakes, de-aging technology, and things like that, who owns the rights to the actors' faces and things of that nature, right? Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of concern about AI, deepfakes, and de-aging technology. We've obviously seen this used, classically in Rogue One, where it wasn't done very well, but it worked there for Grand Moff Tarkin and Carrie Fisher, and we had the Indiana Jones. They did the de-aging in Dial of Destiny.
They did very well. They also had him there.
Had him there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there. And so there's rights with AI, de-aging, and deepfakes that are concerning the actors. The other thing, and this is where they mirror the Screenwriters Guild, right? And I don't know how the Directors Guild one got done. But one of the things that the writers are looking for, and I know the actors are looking for too, on the subject of residuals, right, is transparency from the streamers.
Yep.
Right? Because right now, we have a series of metrics that the streamers kind of like selectively put out there when they want to hype their service, but nobody really knows what they mean, right? So for example, one of the ones that Netflix uses a lot is first show, right? Which means if you sign up for a new Netflix account, what is the first show you navigate to and hit the play button on?
Yeah.
Right?
But who's signing up for a new Netflix account in 2023?
At this stage?
Everyone has one.
Right.
Or had one.
Had one. You know, it's now churn. So, more transparency on minutes watched, stream hours, and things like that for the purpose of residuals and how those residuals are going to be paid, right? This is also having an impact because it recently came out that one of the reasons you're starting to see streamers pull programs, like we've heard a lot about this. We've seen a bunch of articles lately about, hey, these shows just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone.
Yeah.
A lot of that having to do with residuals. They're like, we don't want to pay the residuals on these, so we're just going to pull them. So we don't have to pay them because we're not showing them.
That makes sense. There were a couple things over the weekend that we were like, oh, let's watch this. And I went and I was like, it's been there for years and now it's not. And it didn't even occur to me that probably that.
Yep.
Dang. Get your shiz together. Duh, I want to watch stuff.
So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting day. Well, obviously, we're gonna watch this. I have no doubt that they will be negotiating until midnight.
Probably, yeah. But I'm still calling it now. It won't happen. Like they'll negotiate, but they won't reach anything.
Yeah.
No.
We may do a special YouTube exclusive video tomorrow. Once we know the outcome of it, SAG is supposed to meet tomorrow to determine whether they're going to actually strike.
They probably will. You've seen the videos of like Pete Davidson bringing pizzas to the
Screenwriters Guild.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them know each other. A lot of them like cut their teeth in the same areas as one another. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that the studios might be in trouble. Now they've got a few months worth of, and again, aside from the late night shows, we haven't seen a whole lot of impact of it yet. Movies are still coming out, stuff that was already in the can, stuff that was in post. So we're not going to really feel the impact of this, I think, until like late summer, early fall, when the broadcast stuff starts coming back.
Reality TV and wrestling. That's what you're going to have.
I wonder if wrestling must not be covered by the guild.
No,
by the Screenwriters Guild, because they have writers.
They have writers. Well, WWE has writers.
Yes.
And they are not in the Screenwriters Guild.
That's interesting.
It's been a thing. It's been a hotly debated topic.
As to whether they should be in the guild?
Yep. Freddie Prinze Jr. was a writer for WWE for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it is notoriously grueling. And he was like, I'm done. He stepped away.
He's had a really interesting career post.
Yeah, he
Teen
has.
Heartthrob.
Yeah. Probably living off some residuals. Hey.
I know those are some of my favorite TikTok ones because there's some actors and writers who do those where they're like, it's residuals lottery day. Sometimes it's $6, sometimes it's $1,000. You never know. And so they literally will go through and open their monthly stack of residuals checks. And again, sometimes they really will be like $3.47.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they'll be like, here's $2,000.
Yes. It happens, again, I'm going to loop it back around. It happens in wrestling, too. They get residuals off of, like, merch sales and, like, streaming for, like, their old stuff. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, yeah, some months it's, like, $2,000, and then some months I've had it, it's, like, $30,000. I'm like, what are you going to do? I don't know. My work's done.
Yeah, for sure. So, Chad, let us know what you think. They are really pushing this to the 11th hour.
Well, yeah.
And I think part of it is that the studios have become like tech companies.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where, again, it's not enough to just make a profit.
You got to go 10x.
You got to go, exactly. You got to be like, we did 30% growth this year. We did 20% growth this year. And it's growth on the net profit line. And they're having issues with it.
I blame crypto. Been around for so many years and we've seen so many spikes. And like, oh, invest in crypto, and it's like 500x overnight. And banks and everyone are like, that's the new standard. We got to do that.
I mean, I just blame really, it's Wall Street's fault because, again, without significant profit growth every single year, their stock price tanks, whether it should or not, right? It's never enough to just make money.
No. We could go on and on about this topic.
Yeah.
Hence my silence for just, I'm holding it in. I'm holding it in.
And again, also like the Screenwriters Guild's concerned about AI, right?
Right.
And I think the directors probably got to a deal faster now that I'm thinking about it, because it's hard to AI direct something.
Yes.
So their danger from AI, pseudo replacing sections or pieces of their job is way lower than it is for the Screenwriters Guild, Screen Actors Guild.
Well, I don't know if you've read much stuff written by AI, concept-wise, like broad concepts and story beats. Like some of it's good, but when it comes to writing dialogue, it's bad. It's so bad, so bad.
That's not surprising.
That's not surprising, but yeah.
It's failing the Turing test. Like, I know I'm talking to a robot now. Yeah, it's... The Screen Actors Guild has not gone on strike since, I think, the 80s. It's been 40 years since they had to go on strike. They've managed to keep getting deals done.
When did the whole, syndication deal for 100+ episodes, when did that go through? Was that the 80s?
Yeah. So that's when, and again, that's when, so for those that are to catch Pete up, so generally speaking, the first 2 to 4 years that a show is out, right? And this is under the old broadcast model, right? Where you had a 22 to 24 episode season, right? Under the old broadcast model, generally shows lost money. Like they were making negative money the first 3 to 4 years a show was out.
Shooting a show is very expensive.
Right. What they're aiming for is we need the magic number for syndication. And that's where we can move it to another network, your TNTs, your TBSs, and stuff like that. And the magic number for syndication is 100 episodes. We need 100 episodes so that we're not cycling it every day. But once we get 100 in the can, then we can start selling it to other networks, which is actually when shows start to make a profit.
Hence why Big Bang Theory is on TBS all the time.
Right. Now, and for major syndication shows, again, where you have 200, 300, 400 episodes, Law and Order is a really great example of long-term syndication and where that made crap tons of money.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the model. Now, streaming has changed a lot of that. And again, I think this is another reason why they're looking for some level of transparency. Because the streaming industry is extremely opaque. Right? What counts as a view?
Well, you also have, like, cable is dying. Streaming's the new thing. And you have, I can see why they would look at syndication, the 100 episode thing, and then be like, okay, but this medium's dying, and you still have that in bukus of money. This is the thing right now. Why can't we just get a similar thing?
Well, exactly how are those deals going to be structured, right? Like, and now you've got, Warner Brothers is actually doing that. So Warner Brothers is pulling some of their stuff from their streaming service and selling it back to Netflix. Smart. Yep. Like, sure, Netflix, you can have this for 3 years. Pay us, $50 million. We don't care.
God. Good God. I will be interested to see some of these numbers if they come out.
I mean, the contracts are going to be public, right? The head of the SAG negotiating committee and the president of SAG right now is Fran Drescher, and she got hemmed up this week on social media too because she was in Italy this week.
Okay.
Promoting for Dolce & Gabbana, where she's a brand ambassador in Europe. And her members were very, very upset. They're like, hey, our contract is up this week, right? And the thing is a lot of this doesn't have to do with the big stars. And while the big stars are all signing the letters and things like that, SAG estimates that roughly 2% of their membership actually makes a living as an actor.
God.
Right? So there's a lot of voice actors and other types of like smaller bit, like part actors and character actors who are part of SAG who don't make bajillions of dollars. They're not Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And these people especially are fighting for, look, we just need to maintain some standard of living so that we can actually work.
I mean, it's their work, it's not their life.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Do it so that you can live.
So yeah, let us know what you think. like I said, we'll watch this. We might do a YouTube special about this tomorrow. We'll see.
Great.
See in about 11 hours and 48 minutes whether SAG manages to get a contract.
Clock's ticking.
Clock's ticking. I'm kind of with Pete. I don't think they're going to get it done today. You know, again, we're getting competing narratives out of the studios as to what they want. Some of them are saying they want to break the unions, which I think is going to be hard to do.
It's very difficult to do.
Yeah. Especially in this particular case. So.
Break a union. That's pretty ambitious.
They're trying. Last time they went on strike, it was actually the studios who broke first. One of the studios broke and said, hey, look, we'll pay you to come back. Here's a interim deal that we'll use until the full deal's done, right? And it was considered a pretty good deal for the writers. And they were like, screw you. Screw the AMPTP. We're just going to go. We need them to get back to work.
Huh.
So.
Dang.
Oh, nice. Come to you guys next week from Texas. Decided to come by and see the place. We're excited to see you here. Tell us when you're coming.
Preemptively, welcome.
Yeah.
I hope you have a wonderful time here and in the surrounding area.
By the way, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok chat, if you have any topics you've seen over the last couple of days that we haven't touched on the show that you'd like us to talk about in gaming or movies or TV and things like that, go ahead and toss us your topics into the chat.
Throw it in the chat. I'll throw it over here.
Yes.
I'll put it.
Producer Pete's got it.
Copy paste, baby.
Yay! Control C. All right. Next topic we're going to talk about today is game preservation. This is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem in that a study was recently done that only 13% of the history of video games has been meaningfully preserved.
That's so low.
87% of games ever made are now considered critically endangered, where there may only be a few copies out in the wild somewhere, and they are not preserved in either a library or with an organization there to pursue.
Keep your physical copies. Keep them.
Well, and that's one of the things they bring up in a lot of the interviews and articles I've seen about this is that's kind of where we're at right now is unless you are a hardcore collector and things like that, some of those games are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there's work to be done in preservation about that.
Yeah, it's years ago finding a physical copy of Super Mario RPG was tough. Oh, I don't want to say tough. There was a game store, a used game store in Louisville that had like 7 copies of it, but they wanted $75 a piece. And I was like, I'm not going to pay $75 for it, but I'll give you, I think I'll offer like 40 or 50, which you shouldn't haggle with stores like that's, but it was a used game. I know they bought it for like $20 type of thing, and they had 7 of them, and they were just like, nope. I was like, well, okay, bye then, I guess.
So part of the issue here is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act and the exemptions to it. So for films and other things, there are exemptions to the DMCA that allow for copying of these mediums, and then they're registered with the Library of Congress, things like that, so that they can be preserved for future generations as pieces of art. The ESA has successfully opposed any exemptions to that.
Okay.
And apparently there's some new laws coming out next year. There's some new renewals that need to be done. And so there's a lot of people lobbying to get these exemptions put into place so that we can actually preserve these games.
How do they preserve them? I want to know, because there's an issue 1 of Action Comics that they have preserved that has hole punches in it.
So right now, one of the things that they want to be able to do is they want either a third-party nonprofit or the Library of Congress to be able to digitize every game.
Okay. And backups of backups.
DRM free, so that it can be preserved as a item.
Yeah, that makes sense. But also, please back it up 2 to 3 times. Off-site, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Not on AWS.
Yes. No, I mean physical, physical copies.
Okay.
There's another one in TikTok chat too. We can grab too, by the way.
Thank you, TikTok.
Yes, TikTok. We'll get to that in a sec. The ESA is arguing against this basically on terms of money. We're not selling these games anymore, but we don't want you to preserve them because reasons. Because money.
Because they want to re-release it. Yeah, I would assume.
Yeah, one of the games that got brought up was the original Yakuza.
A masterpiece.
Right.
Every game in Yakuza series.
And one of the arguments that was made was that, well, we made a remake of it. They're like, yeah, but that's a ground-up remake.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's not the original.
It's not.
And you cannot buy the original right now. It's not for sale anywhere.
Mm-mm. Well, like...
Except random game shops and stuff like that.
Well, we have, Pokemon cartridges floating around out there that people have and people have examined, and they're like, oh, they can go into it bit by bit and be like, this is why this was so revolutionary as a game design, historically, because it did this and this and this and this and this. Mm-hmm. Or learning about, the onboard RAM and cartridges that Nintendo did a lot with their
Nintendo,
games.
Yeah, they revolutionized that.
If you only put up the remastered Yakuza, you don't get to see, like, hey, this was really an achievement on the PS2 for a game of this size at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and again,
yeah,
preserving them as pieces of art.
Yeah.
Right? Character design, level design, right? Writing, backgrounds, all that stuff.
Mark Hamill's voice acting.
The
time that it did happen in Yakuza.
Yes.
When it had English VO. I'm not going to get into that.
Do you think they should, I would presume that you agree that they need to come up with some sort of exemption for video games.
Yeah,
like they have for books and movies and everything else. It's copyrighted.
Well, it's such a big part of our society now.
Cultural history
in the U.S., but worldwide now. And as we've looked up, the video game industry as a whole is bigger than the film industry and bigger than the music industry.
Yes, combined.
You know how incredible that is?
Yes.
We're like, this film grossed $1 billion worldwide. How crazy is that? Meanwhile, Rockstar with GTA 5 are like, yeah, we sold that in shark cards for GTA Online. And they're like, yeah, no sweat. It's crazy. So yeah, this stuff, like artistically and as an achievement, the size of the medium, it should absolutely be preserved. There needs to be a conversation at the very least about like, what do we do here? Someone needs to do something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Congress, can we do something here? Like, I know the ESA is powerful, and I know these game companies, and again, they're actually getting more powerful. Obviously, it looks like the Microsoft Activision Blizzard freaking thing's going to go through sometime in the next 6 days. They're currently in negotiations with the UK to finish, making the CMA feel good. There's going to be a carve-out there is, I think, what's going to end up happening. Do you think that applies to online modern games that are starting to die because of digital copies? So, currently, that's not being studied as heavily. So this study and you can see it on Kotaku, this study specifically goes to games that were made prior to 2010 when digital distribution started to really fly up.
Okay.
Okay. So I do think it's going to have an issue with modern games that are dying off because of digital copies. I also think it's an issue because of always-on DRM, and you have to remove that code.
Yes, and also games that MMOs, games that require a server to go.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do about that? Because especially with World of Warcraft from 2004, it's a weird area.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. Angu Life. I was thinking that too. Like, what happens with these games? Like, we had a topic about Starfield potentially being digital only the other day. Like, what happens?
And I'm still not clear if they're actually releasing physical copies of that disc.
Supposedly there's a physical copy. Yeah,
I think so.
I think is where we landed. But yeah, like, what happens with this 200 gig game that's digital only? Like, once games start doing that, because there were YouTube comments on it, and they're like, better get used to it. It's going to happen. And I read that, and they're not wrong. I was just disappointed. It's like, yeah, you're right. So what do we do there? Do we burn it to a discs, plural?
I mean, solid-state hard drives, sure. I mean, we can put it on solid-state drives and just hide them somewhere. This is a big problem. And again, I think it is. I think it's one of those things where we're going to look back and go, some of these games are just straight up going to disappear.
I'd be interested.
Forever.
I'd be interested to see what games have been preserved, and a list of them that haven't. And I would love to see the fanboy outrage at like my favorite game has not been preserved. I'm sure I will too, but also like I can't believe you didn't preserve that game. It sold $1 billion worth of shark cards type of thing. If anybody's like gaming's not a big deal, you can tell them that Rockstar sold $1 billion in shark cards.
Again, it's larger than the film and music industry combined.
You remember when we found that stat? We were like, that can't be. Like that seems so absurd.
It really is how absurd how much money gaming makes.
It's crazy, and like,
and again, this is why I like this topic, because again, it's weird because every other entertainment medium we preserve, right, to a significant degree. We make sure that there are copies left for perpetuity, for studying, so that we understand the history of these mediums.
And it's also, it's interesting to me because you don't have like Casablanca is hailed as like highest grossing editor, all this stuff. People don't know life sitting in front of their TV watching Casablanca on repeat, but people will know life playing a specific game.
Oh, for sure.
So
for sure,
there's an argument to be made with that. But it's just, it's crazy. I don't know. My mind is blown about that.
The other thing I hope, and this is the other, I was thinking about this, and this just popped in my head. I was like, well, I hope the publishers are keeping copies of these things somewhere, like there's a digital master somewhere. But then you think about all the publishers that have gone out of business, right? What happened to all that stuff? It may just, again, I would be curious to, and this is why preservation efforts need to be done. This is why, because we don't even know what games may have just disappeared off the face of the planet.
I can tell you what happens when a distribution center goes under, which is that IT equipment. It gets put, the servers, it gets put on a pallet, and it goes off to be recycled, which means wiped and or securely destroyed. And that's a lot of data. And if a company goes under, they may be like, well, here, buy, recycle it. I don't know. That's such a good point. Like there's a lot that are gone then, that are definitely gone.
Yes.
Another question as far as the finances. How much did whoever Deedle Studios films pay for like Miramax or whatever? Did they pay $69 billion? Even adjusted for inflation?
I think the biggest deal recently was Disney's acquisition of Fox.
Okay.
And I think that total deal...
What's up, Voodoo?
That total deal was... The total deal was $71 billion. But that's for all of Fox, 20th Century Fox, and its related IPs, and everything else.
Versus Blizzard that has 6 IPs,
Basically.
4 IPs. So even, and the reason I said Miramax or whatever, I'm going back to like what's considered classic, like we have to preserve if we're going to go back to like, 90s and before. Like, if you look at it monetarily, if you look at it as a cultural zeitgeist, if you look at it as time spent on entertainment purely, gaming outweighs all of these in every way.
Without a doubt.
And artistically.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch a 40-hour film. I'll play a 40-hour video game.
40-hour, 80-hour. Let's go.
JRPG life.
Just wait till Starfield comes out. By the way, anybody that works for Xbox, if you guys gave us an early access to Starfield, we would stream the crap out of it, okay? I know, Microsoft, you're right down the road. Hook us up.
Death Stranding is a 40-hour movie. Oh, and speaking of that, or 170 hours of cutscenes. The entirety of Game of Thrones, which is widely hailed as a zeitgeist whatever show. One game has that in cinematics.
So, write your Congress people. Tell them we need to preserve video games. Tell them to tell the ESA to go get bent. All right. Moving on. Let's do this chat topic here. We can actually probably record this one too for a good segment.
Editing today.
What are our thoughts on the One Piece TCG's future? That's a very, very good question.
I love this question.
It's actually one we've talked about a lot.
Yes.
Not just in relation to One Piece, but Lorcana. And I've gotten 9 phone calls in the last week about Shadowverse Evolved. Right?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That is not the one I expected.
I am getting phone call after phone call about Shadowverse Evolved.
Wow.
It's a super good question. So it does not surprise me when these things come out on fire, right? They come out and it's like, and it's the new hotness, right? New hotness. A lot of it I put up to how strong their organized play is, right? What does your organized play scene look like?
You talking about in general or
in general for TCGs, right? If your organized play is strong, right? If your organized play is strong, you can get some staying power for your TCG. Somebody in the TikTok chat saying Bandai's dropping the ball majorly with One Piece. Yes, they are.
They are.
And that's because they're pulling a Weiss, and they are only printing what's ordered.
Here's the thing.
And it drives me. I cannot buy One Piece right now.
Which sucks. We get asked so much about One Piece cards.
I want them.
I want them personally.
I want to be able to sell them. I can't get them.
We get calls. We get people who are like, "Do you guys have it?" And like, no, sorry. We might be getting some in soon. And here's the thing too. Because of this shortage, you get, I'll call them scalpers. Fred Meyer, Target, you're freaking scalpers. If you're selling a starter deck, which the MSRP or not is
$20.
We sold them for $15 because that's what the price was.
Yep.
They sell them for $30, $35. It just sets up the situation.
Somebody in the TikTok chat said you can't have a good community when stores only get 3 to 4 per store. It would outsell MTG. I don't know if it would quite outsell MTG yet. One Piece is big. One Piece is a huge IP. That being said, it's still relatively niche.
Yeah.
I don't know, again, I don't know if it would outsell MTG or Pokemon, but I have no doubt that we could sell double whatever Bandai's selling right now.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I still think we would have a problem keeping it in stock, even if it was...
Even if I could get a hold of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, from a player standpoint, a functionality standpoint, what I've heard about the game, and the card quality, which is of like My Hero and Weiss quality, it's very nice. They knocked it out of the park with all of that. But this whole print on demand thing and then done, it's just not doing them any favors. I don't know.
And so I don't see, right now, so far, I haven't seen a huge One Piece, like good organized play system. Again, I don't know how long it's going to last for that. Right?
We've had a lot of local stores that have shifted to One Piece.
We have had a lot of local
stores. I've heard that, and I'm like, are you sure you want to? Far be it from me.
Yeah, and they likewise have no U.S.-based factories. They don't even use, again, they do likewise. They print to order, right? You put in your orders. And this is an issue that we've talked about so many times on stream. The problem that we have, and this really messes up a lot of games, and I'm going to get frustrated for a minute. The tabletop industry is opaque as snot. Nobody knows how much of what is selling. Nobody knows anything about this industry outside of probably 4 companies who are hoarding all of that information. We're required to put in pre-orders on all of this stuff months, and I do mean months in advance. Now, here's the thing. We have to put in the pre-orders months in advance, and we're playing, especially with these new games, a huge guessing game. And so for a small local game store, you are locking in a lot of capital. And if it flops, you are crap out of luck. Right? Yeah. Completely crap out of luck.
How hard is it to put cardboard in a printer?
It's a little more complicated than that, but it's not that. It's that we're using this 7,500-year-old distribution methodology for the tabletop industry that makes 0 sense. Oh, and by the way, is upended by 2 or 3 major retail size things like Amazon, Target, Walmart, who can basically bump you out, right? Okay, they're not getting declined. And again, it goes to show on how these allocated products are put into allocation. And again, they're all allocated too, right? And that's based on previous things. So it's really difficult unless you are willing to chunk in a bunch of cash to buy product that you don't need and probably can't sell very easily. You're not going to increase your allocations. You're just not, right? And so consequently, you get kind of hosed. It's this chicken and egg. Well, in order to increase your allocation, you need to buy more, right? But in order for me to buy more, I have to be allowed to buy more.
It's like it's like gambling, kind of, that's being gatekept.
Yes,
is how I would like concisely state it. I know there's more aspects to it, but I don't have to talk to distributors like you do. But just from what I catch via osmosis, that's kind of what it seems like. And I'm just going to say it, the TTRPG community and like distribution, given how big that industry is and like how popular it is, I'm just going to call it, it's pretty unprofessional.
Oh, it's extremely unprofessional.
It like, and again, not to harsh, just to harsh. I covered it yesterday. I try to give like constructive criticism. So I don't want to say it's just unprofessional or it sucks, but it's like you have your product and you try to get it out there, but you make it really difficult. And there's been a lot of times whenever we don't know until a few days beforehand, hey, you ordered 15 of that.
You got 5.
You got 5. And their order went in, months ago, type of thing.
Why haven't they released a One Piece TCG app like MTGA? Because they haven't felt like it. I mean, and here's the thing: Bandai is their own worst enemy. The future of the One Piece TCG could be so much better if you could actually get your hands on product. If you want new players to come to your game, it must be accessible, right? Yeah. And again, this is why Weiss has got a decent, and Weiss is out there. Weiss doesn't grow very much, right?
No.
Because it's hard to get it. Right?
I mean, I thankfully work here, and if I want to know answers to questions, I have to ask Jordan.
And the thing is it's like, how do you expect me to get new players into the arena if you guys aren't giving us enough product, right? Or product in a method that allows us to keep it on the shelves and to keep people interested. The difference is while MTG is allocated, we still get chunks. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then things eventually come out of allocation and move to stocking. So with Lord of the Rings, we're now getting close to the point where Lord of the Rings is moving to a stocking item.
Yeah.
Right? Other stuff I get is now a stocking item. One Piece is not a stocking item.
Unfortunately.
I have the same questions. Now, I don't think Lorcana is going to have the same issue because it's different publishers. Ravensburger, they're a European and U.S.-based publisher. They're a Western publisher. So they're going to be pumping out cards.
They've been pretty transparent with information as we can get it.
Yes.
I will say. They've been pretty open.
So I will be really curious to see what One Piece's future is. Again, same thing with Shadowverse. Shadowverse is made by Bushiroad. I think they're going to have the same issue that they have with Weiss. And again, let me rephrase this. They don't see it as an issue. Does that make sense? They're not worried about it. Bandai is not concerned.
I have a theory on that / question.
Go ahead.
Because, and it kind of relates to Gundams as well. Do you think because these are games born in Japan that they're underestimating they're underestimating the US or Western appetite for this, but also Magic has such a foothold here and they think that like we won't be able to compete?
I don't think it's that they're underestimating. I think it's that they don't have the same, I don't want to say drive. They don't have the same compulsion to be like big.
Yeah.
You know, Look at Warhammer UK based, sometimes shitty distribution stock levels. That's actually a whole. Warhammer has a separate issue because of how Warhammer is structured. WotC has more than a couple of different distributors. I buy Magic from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different distributors we buy Magic from. Because you have to. And there's actually more than that.
That's an interesting. My question to that, Masaki, is it... Masaki says Japanese businessmen are terrible at taking risks. They won't do anything.
It is a much more conservative business culture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's small c conservative.
But I guess like they have access to like the consumption of One Piece media and merchandise in the U.S., right? So you would think that it wouldn't be seen as much of a risk. Like you have a window into it, right? I guess is what I'm saying. And seeing that window and taking all that data and looking at it, you would think that they would see that as like, oh, that's a market of opportunity.
Again, it's a market of opportunity, but they don't want stuff sitting on the shelves. You know what I mean?
True, but once they've sold it,
again, they don't see it that way. You know, and again, I understand why they don't see it that way. I understand the stuff. I just think it's not fun. Again, I think we're a little too soon into One Piece's lifespan to know what the One Piece TCG's future is going to be.
It'll certainly, okay. Over here, it's a question mark. It will certainly stay alive in Japan. And I see what I think will happen is they'll slowly start bolstering over here over time because they're just going to be making money hand over fist in Japan. Be like, well, that we keep hearing that the U.S. wants more and more, so we'll trickle it in, type of thing.
Masaki's made a comparison to Japanese video game companies that are a bit better. They're not. So the reason Street Fighter 6 is not a great example is because it's digitally distributed. They don't have to buy anything. They don't have to make anything. They don't have to manufacture anything. They don't have to print anything, right? If the One Piece TCG was digital only, like, we wouldn't be having this issue. You'd be able to get plenty of cards. Look at what happened with the PlayStation 5. Look at what happens with the last 2 PlayStations, right? They always under-manufacture.
That happened with the Wii as well.
And it happened with the Wii as well.
Huh.
Okay? They always under-manufacture what they actually need.
Will the One Piece TCG stay alive for 100,000 plus episodes and release?
Who knows? So again, it's really tough to say. My best guess right now, end of the day, is I think One Piece TCG ends up being like Weiss. Where it's there, it will be a thing, it will always be hard to get a hold of, and it's going to have its group, right? But it's not gonna overtake Magic or Pokemon because again, I can't get enough product to sell it to new people, right? Yeah. I'm gonna swing back around this. If I get a 10-year-old kid to come in here who wants to learn how to play Magic or Pokemon, I have products on the shelves for starter kits and things like that to get them into it, right? If an 11-year-old came in here tomorrow and said, I heard about the One Piece TCG, I want to play the One Piece TCG.
That's true.
Don't have product to sell them or even to give them to get them into the game.
That's true. You don't get new people coming in to buy it. You get people that are already playing it that are just hunting for it, I guess, because of the stock. Huh.
There is no way for me to get new people into One Piece, to get it to grow, because I cannot get a hold of the damn cards. Right?
Yeah.
So that's One Piece's problem.
Thought about it going forward, because you said we got so many phone calls about Shadowverse. Shadowverse, if I'm not mistaken, started out as an online TCG.
I believe so.
It's been around for years. I know.
Shadowverse Vault, yeah.
Yeah, Shadowverse. Because I've downloaded it for a few years now and meant to play it and just haven't got around to it. Are they just now venturing into a physical card game? Is that the way to go?
I have no idea. Here's what I know.
Thank you for the bits, by the way.
Yes. What I know is I've gotten a lot of calls about it. It's a Bushiroad product. It's like Weiss.
Ooh.
I'm trying to get a hold of it. Chicken Heist already ordered. Hey, we have Chicken Heist in store. No need to order. You can just come here and get it.
All right. So what I'm hearing is Bushiroad. You don't know it, maybe.
Bushiroad, Bandai, Konami.
But you print gold over here.
Yeah.
Print a little more gold.
Yes.
And send it over.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking.
Yep. All right. Moving on to our next topic. Yes, we do have Chicken Heist in store. It is here.
We do keep Chicken Heist pretty regularly.
Yeah, Chicken Heist is one of the most popular indie games we have. I also picked up some new indie games, so come in this week and grab those. Don't forget, the Summer Game Fest is still happening. All board games are 10% off. We have all board games and anime figures are 10% off this month. And the raffle continues. So we're trying to get a hold of more stuff for that. So there we go.
Should have outsourced One Piece printing to Watsy.
Well, then they'd be crappy cards.
I was going to say,
So you get those sweet curled foils. All right, next one. Yes, they did drop a new trailer for Ahsoka. Disney's starting to hype up on the new Ahsoka series, which comes out August 23rd. And we finally got Thrawn from the front.
Yeah.
Not just him walking into a room from behind. We
Yeah.
got Thrawn from the front. I think he looks pretty good. About as good as you're going to get him in live action.
Okay.
I think the guy that they got, Lars Mikkelsen is playing him, who also did the voice of Thrawn in the Rebels animated series.
I got to look this up now.
It's a solid looking trailer. The casting for Sabine is spot on. I'm curious. I've only seen the live action Everdra in like hollow recording form, so I'm really, really curious.
They made him look like Data from Star Trek. I mean, he looks exactly like he should, according to the books.
Oh, yes. No, he does.
Looks 100%. That's
Blue
correct.
skin, red eyes, white uniform.
Yes.
Again, it looks like a really solid show. I think that they're probably holding back some cool surprises. I'm curious about these dark Jedi-looking people that we get in there. It's a really, really solid looking trailer. It's a long trailer.
Ooh.
But I would say about 50% of it is footage we've seen before. Right? Just recut with a little bit of adding.
That tells me that there's some stuff in there that they don't want to spoil.
Yes. For sure. It looks solid. I've been looking forward to this show for some time. I hope they can stick the landing. That's really where they're at.
Murph McArthur. Barbieheimer next week.
Yeah. I really hope they can stick the landing. It's gonna be.
Mean, I think that. So Ahsoka has a large fandom, right?
She does.
And I have heard for years, before Disney retconned the EU, did the thing, did they not do the thing? Before all that, somebody lent me the books, The Heir to the Empire, and sold me on Thrawn as being like this BA dude.
The new Thrawn novels are even better, in my opinion.
Ooh, okay.
So when they recanonized Thrawn, after they destroyed the old EU, when they recanonized Thrawn, they went back to Timothy Zahn, who created the character in the first place under the old expanded universe, and said, hey, will you rewrite these? And Thrawn went, yes, I've learned a lot in 20 years. Let me rewrite these.
He's written everything for everybody.
Okay. He is... it's a stronger story set, in my opinion. It is different than the original EU in how Thrawn stuff ends out. The origin of Thrawn is essentially the same. Where he came from is essentially the same. There's a lot more backstory written, and it's a lot less him just explaining things after the fact. You get a lot more interior monologue and things like that, so you understand what Thrawn's thinking when he's doing stuff.
Yep.
So it was great. F everyone for destroying the EU. I've not seen the latest 3 movies because of it. The latest 3 movies have nothing to do with the EU. They had to, and I've been over this with folks in the store 100 times. They had to kill the old EU. They had to. It was
spaghetti.
It was too much, especially once they got to the Yuuzhan Vong stuff. It got really, really bonkers once they got to the Yuuzhan Vong and beyond. There was just no way to hold that.
I love that you and Joe have such polarizing opinions from one another on almost everything Star Wars. You like Ahsoka, he hates Ahsoka. Yuuzhan Vong, he's like, yeah. And you're just like, no.
I understand why some people were annoyed with Ahsoka. When they first started writing Ahsoka, so the movie they did, and then the first season and a half of Clone Wars, she was very annoying. And the way she was written...
That's probably why.
...was super, like, bratty kid. Right?
Okay. Well, kid.
Okay? But you don't have to write him quite as bratty. Now, as Clone Wars progressed, and once we got into Rebels, they showed real growth in the writing of the character and how the character was written, and what the character's purpose within the greater Star Wars universe, and what their purpose as a Force user was, right?
Okay.
Clone Wars ended really strong, right? And that's why I appreciate the character of Ahsoka, right? I think Rosario Dawson was a decent casting to do as an older Ahsoka post, War Against the Empire.
Yeah.
Her relationship with Anakin and Vader was great and was well written in Rebels. So, again, I'm looking forward to the show, right?
I'm excited to see Thrawn, an incarnation of Thrawn. I know we talked about this before. Can I just say, Jedi are so boring.
They can be.
As a kid, I was like, oh, they're keeping their stuff together really well, like stoic. As an adult, I'm like, yep, you have like, I don't know. They just seem so robotic, and especially with the whole thing with Grogu and the rules and everything during the training, I was like, I don't like this. But
an Elseworlds What If movie of Anakin not turning to the dark side. I think they did that as a comic book,
nice.
If memory serves.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Because Masaki said, I need to watch Clone Wars and Rebels. It made me think, if you have somebody who's not into Star Wars or has never seen it, where would you have them start? What is a good 101? Kind of like if no one's read Lord of the Rings, I'm not going to tell them to read the trilogy. I'll be like, read The Hobbit. Mm-hmm. Tolkien did great at being like, this is a little teaser.
Yeah.
It's written really, really quickly.
Yeah.
What would you say for Star Wars for that? And chat, please, if you have any.
Have they ever seen any of the movies?
In passing, not sitting down. It's been on in passing. Let's say that. Because everybody's walked by or been at a party or a gathering where Star Wars is on. It's impossible to avoid.
Where would I have somebody start?
What's an entertaining and concisely done story that would grab somebody, you think? Without needing to know too much deep lore. You think it's still the original?
I still think it's the original trilogy.
Okay.
Like, get through the original trilogy.
Okay. Now then, let's go in a step
I mean,
further.
and you could really, for all of the first 6, you could do the Machete watch version.
Yeah?
Right?
Yeah.
Which I actually don't think is a bad idea. And so the Machete watch version is 4, 5, 2, 3, 6.
Yeah.
Right? So you watch New Hope, you watch Empire. Oh, Vader is Anakin. Okay, cool. Now go back to episode 2.
Origin story.
And see how he becomes that. TikTok chat actually has a good one. Rogue One is not a bad one. If you want to show them a really entertaining film to get them into it. Yeah, Rogue One wouldn't be a bad place to start. You don't need to know a whole bunch of deep lore for Rogue One. It's pretty basic.
So, I mean, part of this question is selfish too, because like, I know some Star Wars, but then whenever you all, like you mentioned the Yuuzhan Vong and stuff like that.
So that's all old to you. It's gone.
Right.
It's toast.
But then seeing people like, I'm so excited for the Ahsoka trailer. someone like me, like I know Star Wars, right? But seeing that, I see it, and I'm just like, it's just like lore and bits whizzing past. I'm like, I don't have a point of reference really. What would you for the EU
For the
past
new
the
EU?
trilogy? Yeah, what would you recommend?
I'd start with The Mandalorian.
Okay, it's pretty good.
Like The Mandalorian, if you watch all 3 seasons of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, like you're gonna get 90% of it.
You do, yeah. There was Ahsoka, and it, yeah, okay.
So Ahsoka shows up in season 2 of Mandalorian.
And you get a primer on like
Everything.
because they allude to it in episode 1 of like he's pretty old to start his training, but then you get to see Grogu do the thing, and it's like, oh, so that's the age that they would start. Okay.
Yeah. Mandalorian's probably a good place to start if you're going to do that.
Cool.
For every good book that was in the old EU, there was a piece of garbage.
Wow.
That's the thing. Like people are talking about, there's some good stuff in the old EU. For every single book in the old EU that was good, there was a piece of trash. Go read The Crystal Star. I dare you.
With that amount, like there's gonna be some stinkers. It's just probability.
Oh my God,
No.
there was some really good stuff. And again, I was an old EU stan, okay? I read everything, okay? Star Wars, I've said this on the show many times. Star Wars was my first fandom, right?
Yeah.
As a child.
Yeah.
Okay? And going all the way into adulthood, right? I was there opening day of episode 1, right? I was there opening day of episode 2 and episode 3. I read all of the old EU stuff. I read everything. I watched everything. I played every video game.
It was your lore.
It was my thing.
Yeah.
For every good one, there was a piece of trash. Trust me, okay? Not everything was good. The stuff that they've chosen to recanonize, again, Thrawn, right? A lot of the stuff they're doing with The Mandalorian is taking a lot of what they were developing for Mandalorian culture toward the tail end of the old EU and pouring it into the new one.
Okay.
Right? They're making some changes, but it's pretty good, right? I think that if they would have done the old EU in the new EU and been like, this is the story we're going to tell for Han, Leia, and Luke, I think everybody would have lit their hair on fire, okay? The hardcore fans would have been happy because we're sticking to it, right? But everybody else, all the normies, the people who just like Star Wars, would have hated it. Hated it. Han and Leia's life is filled in the old EU with terrible fucking tragedy.
Yeah.
Okay? They have 3 children. By the time the old EU was gone, 2 of them are dead. And one of them is dead because he turned into a Sith and his twin sister had to kill him after being trained by Boba Fett on how to kill him.
I just want to say, we have fully captured the being at the game store debate and discussion vibe of this channel, because I have heard so many Star Wars debates in this store. We did it.
It was tragedy. Their entire Chewie did die saving Ben. A moon fell on him. Okay. Now Chewie went out like a boss. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Motherfucker was holding a moon up. Okay. Practically. Okay. Also, the Yuuzhan Vong, if you would have put them into film version, is a horror film. These are creatures. These are alien creatures.
Go on.
Right? That literally carve their own freaking bodies in scars to make themselves look horrible.
It sounds like that opens up to more genres of Star Wars.
Okay? They carry these staves called amphistaves that are living fucking snake staves that can either stiffen to become like a thing or become like a whip with teeth. Okay? These things would have been rated PG-13 at best. Okay? These were not child-friendly stories.
I kind of like them as some fuel for
like
a story.
some of these like Yuuzhan Vong or Star Wars Tyranids. They're not even Star Wars Tyranids. They are a manipulation of, and it ends up coming out because everything in the old EU comes back to the bloody Sith. right? The Vong weren't from outside the galaxy. They came back to the galaxy, but it turned out that they were from the galaxy in the first place, and they just get kicked out after they were cut off from the Force. Seriously. Like, I can go through the old EU. Now, there was some great stuff. I would love to see them recanonize, and I was hoping they were going to do this with Patty Jenkins' movie before that got canceled. Thanks, Kathleen Kennedy, right? When they were doing an X-Wing movie, they were going to do an X-Wing movie in the new EU.
Yeah.
I was like, please do it based on the old X-Wing novels.
Yeah.
The old X-Wing Rogue Squadron and Race Squadron novels are fucking great. They are really fun, right? And they don't make you want to stab yourself in the eyeball. Okay? Like, the old X-Wing novels were really, really solid, right? I really would love to see them recanonize some of that stuff from the old AU. I was really hoping that was what was going to happen when Patty Jenkins was going to make the Rogue Squadron movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe another day.
Maybe another day. Maybe after Kathleen Kennedy finally quits. After the debacle that is the Indiana Jones box office right now.
Yeah, which it's a good movie. You should go watch it, everyone.
It's such a flop.
Crazy.
And it's sad.
It's crazy.
Well, and apparently, I think Cannes was probably
Not the place to do it.
not the place to premiere it.
X-Wing movie would be Star Wars Top Gun.
And that's what it was going to be.
That's pretty cool.
It would have been Star Wars Top Gun, and it would have been awesome. And I was so looking forward to it. And I love Patty Jenkins as a director, right? If you want to be frustrated about the new stuff, right? A lot of the frustration, I think, comes down to I'm not really sure they knew what they were doing. And that I think they were like, Disney made a big acquisition in buying Lucasfilm, right? And they know they needed to start putting out product.
Yep.
To make up some of that money. Because it's a lot of money they spent.
Yes.
But I don't think they had a plan initially. I think after the first couple of years, and again, I will debate this, and I've had this debate in the store before. I would say hour for hour, most of what Disney has put out has been pretty solid.
Well, yeah, I've heard this discussion before and chimed in a little bit of like, if Disney hadn't bought it, you wouldn't have nearly as much as you have now.
No, and a lot of people forget, George waited 16 years. There was 16 freaking years between the release of Episode 6 of Jedi and Episode 1. Okay? George wasn't making Star Wars movies. Okay?
It all started with George not making Darth Jar Jar a reality.
There you go.
Was that the plan? I really did enjoy that theory.
I love that theory, but no.
Misa gonna avenge you, Annie.
Okay. I don't think they had a plan. I think that they had some good stuff. I went back and watched Solo recently, and it's not a bad movie.
I still have not seen that one.
It's not bad. Just, look, Alden Ehrenreich was never going to replace Harrison Ford. Like, you just can't do it.
It's a tall order.
It's a tall order. And you can't do a 2-hour deep fake. If I was them, I would have made Lando the movie. Because Donald Glover crushed it as Lando, right?
If you're listening, Disney.
You know, and again, I think the EU is just too complicated for them to bring forward. And so I don't blame them for crushing the old EU. What I do blame them for is rushing into the new trilogy, which to a degree I understand too, because lest we all forget, they rushed into the new trilogy and Carrie Fisher still didn't make it through the whole thing. She died.
Yeah.
She died after episode 8, which, by the way, killed the screenplay for episode 9.
Yeah.
Okay?
What it kind of sounds like, okay, so whenever they got rid of, let's say that, the old EU, they're like, it's spaghetti. We're kind of painted into a corner here. Blah. And then they sort of went in, from my understanding, and they're like, very quickly we're like, we made more spaghetti. Uh-oh. Type of thing. Is that, would you agree, disagree?
My personal opinion is I think they've written themselves into a corner. And I think it was a mistake. Right? And you went in and hired a mystery box director to make your first movie. And then you did all this goofy stuff to make it seem interesting. And then you handed it to Ryan Johnson, and Ryan Johnson said, "Screw your mystery box. No mysteries."
And when you say mystery box director, you're talking about JJ? Mm-hmm.
That's what JJ does.
Everyone said it. I don't need to say it, but I'll repeat it. If you're trying to make a franchise or write a story that you want an ending to,
don't
hire JJ. I love him. I loved Lost.
Until Lost ended.
Yep. JJ's cool, has some cool ideas, but wrapping things up.
And lens flares.
Nope.
JJ's got his lens flares.
And lens flares, but nope.
Are they making High Republic movies? Not currently. So the ones that are on the docket right now, they're making a High Republic show. So right now, what's on the docket? There's the Dawn of the Jedi movie, which has no official title yet, but it's in time at the origins of the Jedi Order.
It's a badass title. Use that.
Right. The other one they're making, I'm going to call it Episode 10 for lack of a better, again, no official title, no understanding of what this is. Daisy Ridley is supposedly coming back as Rey to rebuild the Jedi Order. That's a thing that's happening.
Okay.
That's the ones that I'm... Oh, and then the Filoni one. And Filoni is making a film that will basically wrap up all of the storylines from Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, and Ahsoka. And it is presumed that Thrawn is going to be the big bad, right? They're not going to kill off Thrawn during the Ahsoka show. He's going to keep being a threat until that film is released.
Okay.
Right?
Cool.
However, Dave can't be writing it right now because there's a strike on going back, and we're full circle back to the original thingy. Yeah.
You know who can fix all this? James Gunn.
I mean, if you want to talk about Gunn announced a bunch of shit today. They're packing characters into that Superman movie. Nathan Fillion's playing the Green Lantern.
I'm kidding, but I do find it funny that they did have James Gunn come in. He was just like, okay, you, go do this, you, this. Fixed, fucking go.
I've had this fight in the store a bunch. I can fix episode 8 with one scene. Right?
Oh.
I can fix episode 8 with one scene.
Okay.
Right? And they're going to the casino planet to find Lando.
Yeah, it was a missed opportunity, I guess, huh?
Hey, go back and find this general that fought with Han and Luke and Leia back at the end of the war. He was one of the guys that destroyed the second Death Star. He'll be able to help you defeat the First Order. Lando. And instead we shoehorn Lando's fucking reintroduction into the series into episode 9. No. You reintroduce Lando in episode 8. Then you do stuff, then that makes that whole sequence less pointless. Okay? The rest of the movie actually wasn't bad. Go back and watch it again. A lot of people watched Last Jedi once or twice and then got kind of frustrated because of the way that sequence ended, right?
That's episode 9, right?
Episode 8.
Episode 8.
Right.
I watched it once.
The sequence with Luke was really, really cool. There was a bunch of stuff. JJ should have either done the entire trilogy or nothing. JJ doesn't do trilogies. He doesn't want to. JJ did this with Lost. I'm going to start it. I'm going to set up all your mystery boxes. I'm bored now. Bye.
I know we've talked about this. With Lost, I lost a lot of respect. And again, who the hell am I? But whenever there was the writer's strike that happened, but also season 4 is where it kind of
killed heroes.
Yeah. But season 4 is where it really started getting like, because someone online guessed the ending and what everything was, and JJ said, oh, no, can't be having people guess it. 90-degree turn. Like, what? It's okay if some people know. it doesn't
That
have
means
to
that
be
you've actually dropped the right breadcrumbs.
Yeah, that means that you shot it and edited it well and directed it well.
And wrote it well, yeah, that it's done right.
Because Jess was asking me the other day if, like, doing what I do, editing, and, like, I watch a lot of stuff about, like, film editing and whatnot, and, you know, editing for storytelling. She's like, has this, like, messed with movies for you at all? I'm just like, I mean, there's a lot less surprises. If you've edited it that way, then you've told your story well, that some people who see things and like, oh, that's
and pay
what that
attention.
means, and pay attention, that means you did a good job. It's okay. It's okay for people to know.
Yeah. Nathan Fillion is Green Lantern. Yes, he will be in it. Now, I don't know how much he's going to be in it, but that was announced today. They've got a Hot Girl, Nathan Fillion, Green Lantern, and somebody else. They announced the casting today. They're jamming this thing full. Hot Girl. Gunn and Fillion have worked together for a long time. Fillion was briefly in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. James Gunn recasting Nathan Fillion is not surprising even a little bit. I saw it this morning and I decided not to do it as a topic because I don't think it's really interesting.
Oh.
Okay, I'm reading this thing about Firefly.
Oh, I was actually just going to say, I gave in. I watched Firefly over the weekend.
The whole series?
Fine. First 7 episodes.
What do you think?
Finally. Good. I can see why people like it so much. I resisted for a long time because my brother's a hardcore Gen Xer. He's like, I can't believe you're my effing brother. You haven't seen Firefly. Ugh. And that kind of turns me off from things. But I watched it. I was like, yeah, this was fun. And then I started catching on. I was like, I see why people are outraged that this didn't get another season.
It should have gotten another season. Instead, they gave him the movie at the end, Serenity.
By modern metrics and storytelling, and especially by the standard of storytelling and TV shows at the time it came out, 100%.
Yeah.
Fox, you had a show of the degree of HBO.
Yes.
And you just
effed it off.
Yeah.
James Gunn's brother about to be Wally West. Wouldn't shock me. He's a little old to be Wally West, but I could definitely see him being Jay Garrick. For sure. Here's my fix. Mr. Zahn, could you turn your original 3 Star Wars novels into screenplays? 2 issues with that. Not conceptually initially. First off, novel writing and screenwriting are 2 very different skills. Very, very different skills. This is why Michael Crichton didn't write the screenplay to Jurassic Park.
Dog Dad, looking at the list of names, I don't disagree with you.
Now, here's the thing. Actually, the problem with this concept is this. The age Luke, Han, and Leia were during the original Star Wars novels that Zahn wrote was they were all in their early 30s.
Oh.
Okay? So if George would have done that, right? If George would have been the one to be like, hey, let's turn these into movies. Back in 1992, right?
Yeah.
Or 93, whenever Zahn wrote them, then absolutely. Oh, recast Star Wars? Have you seen the fan people in this thing? Again, Solo. I bring you back to Solo, Dog Dad. I love you, Dog Dad. I bring you back to Solo and how much everybody crapped all over Alden Ehrenreich when they recast Han Solo.
I just want to say, I read that in your voice, Dog Dad. Fine, someone else can write the screenplays, but recast. I could hear it.
And also at the time, again, if George would have done it in the 90s, I agree with you, and I think George should have. I think the fact that George waited that long to make more Star Wars films is what screwed it all up. A James Gunn Star Wars movie would be awesome. Well, he's the head of WB, so that's not going to happen anymore.
Just watch Guardians. I don't know.
Guardians isn't Star Wars.
It's not, but you.
Yeah, again.
It's the vibe that
James Gunn doing a Star Wars movie would have been fun. Supposedly the Taika Waititi one's still in development somewhere. There's a Feige one still in development somewhere. It's sitting in development hell. By the way, if you want to read a really cool book about the movie industry, go read Tales from Development Hell. And it is about movies that, like, people are trying to get made for super long periods of time. And in the book, they outline some that sit in development hell forever and some that, eventually do get made. Stuff like that.
What's the number one roadblock for things actually getting going? Preference, politics,
No, it's not politics.
release timeframes?
It's going to sound stupid, but honestly, creative differences. So here's the thing. The way that the movie business, and again, I'm going to way oversimplify this. The way the movie business works is this. Let's say it's a completely new IP, right? Not adapted,
Yeah.
right? Somebody writes what's called a treatment, right? A treatment is 5 to 10 pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that treatment basically is a story outline in narrative format. So it's not like bullet points, but it's like a short story, right? Yeah. In a 5 to 10 page format that says, here's the movie we want to make, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's taken to a studio or a series of studios, right? They'll take it to a bunch of studios. And then they stick it in a room full of monkeys, also known as film executives, right? And those film executives will sign what's called a development contract, right? So a lot of where studios actually spend a lot of money is in development contracts, right? Because before it's ever made, right, they will go, cool, we like this treatment. Here's $5 million.
Yeah.
Go develop it. And that development contract will generally involve a couple of things, generally. And again, I'm oversimplifying. One, write a damn screenplay. So they will hire a screenwriter, right? It might even be the same guy who wrote the treatment. Maybe.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes it's a producer, sometimes it's an actor, sometimes it's somebody, right? They'll be like, here's $5 million. Go do a development thing. Now, here's the thing. Studios do this all the time where they will give you $2 to $5 million to develop things, and then they will flush that money down the toilet, right?
Okay.
Studios give out development contracts, not necessarily expecting them to come to anything, right?
Hey, I got an idea.
Right.
Cost me $5 million.
Basically. So, the development is done. Usually that also involves writing the full screenplay, maybe multiple times, concept art, initial design, what the movie's going to look like, maybe a little bit of light storyboarding, and then they build it into a package. Then they go back to the studio, and they go, hey, room full of monkeys, here's our screenplay, here's our script, right? This is the movie we're going to make, right? Also during the development contract, what they will often do is you'll hear things about people being attached. Do you ever hear that in a news story?
So is attached to this project?
Yeah. So what they'll do during the development period is they'll go, hey, Steven Spielberg or James Gunn or Dave Filoni or whoever.
Yeah.
We've got this cool screenplay. You think you want to be a director?
Yeah.
Right? And they'll be like, yeah, this is cool. I will sign a preliminary thing that says, yeah, I'm going to direct this. Right?
Put a rocket ship to it.
Same thing with like the lead actor a lot of times.
Okay.
They're like, hey, Keanu, we're making this cool John Wick series. You want to do this?
So it sounds like even if that's not going to be the final thing, it's sort of like a marketing effort.
It's basically marketing it to the film executives. Because when you come back at the end of the development period, you're coming back to the executives at Warner Brothers or wherever and saying, hey, here's the screenplay, here's the concept, this is what it looks like, and we've attached, Steven Spielberg to direct this.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? And then the studio goes, yes, and that's where you'll hear the term green light, right? Once a studio, also during the development period, they will be like, and this is how much we think it's going to cost. They'll also go to the studio with the budget, right? Hey, we think this is going to cost us $120 million to make, right? And then the studio looks at that whole package and they go, yes, you may have $120 million to make this film into a thing, right?
Okay.
And that's when they go make a movie.
Okay, so
things will get stuck in development hell where they're in development for decades.
What I'm hearing is I want to make a 10-page whatever thing you said.
A treatment.
A treatment to present and get the $5 million and then just disappear. That's what I want to
They
do.
can sue you for that. You
Or I'll turn in a terrible script and they'll be like, never mind. Be like, oh, thanks for the $5 million. Sorry, I couldn't do it.
and that's oftentimes what happens. Like, they'll get to the end of development and the studio will be like, no, we're not making this. This
Isn't
is
that
stupid.
part of the plot of the producers? Mm-hmm. Geniuses.
Netflix, you're agreeing with it. You're agreeing with it. Yes. Except Netflix has internal stuff. Then the studio looks around. So here's the thing. TV development works a little differently. We're talking about movies. TV deals are written differently. So typically for a TV show, they will write like a longer thing, but the thing that the studios want for a TV show is a pilot,
Yes.
right? They will go, write us a pilot.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, cool, pilot. And the screenwriters will write a pilot script, right? And they'll go, here's the first episode. And then the studios will read it, and they'll be like, cool, film this. They film crap loads of pilots that never see the light of day.
That sounds like too much work. I kind of want to just
Okay.
write the 10 pages and get the 5
Big
mil.
Bang Theory, you brought up that show earlier today.
Yep.
They had filmed a pilot for Big Bang Theory that didn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it was before they cast. They had a different girl playing Penny,
Okay.
and Howard and Raj didn't exist in the original pilot.
So it's just 3 characters?
Basically, 3 main characters, right? The only people that stayed from this, so Johnny Galecki is Leonard,
Yeah.
and what's his name? That's
Sheldon Cooper is Sheldon Cooper.
Yeah.
I just had his name and I forgot it. Whatever.
Okay. Those 2 were the 2 that stayed from the original pilot,
Okay.
right? They recast Penny, and then they went in and they went, we need, and the producers, after they watched the first pilot, said, it's pretty good. It's not good enough. You need to recast Penny because she has no chemistry with Leonard and Sheldon,
Oh, okay.
right? And they said, you need 2 more characters. It can't just be Leonard, Sheldon, Penny. Like, there has to be more to it, right? Keep in mind, we're just coming off a lot of the Friends stuff. This was around the time How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, okay.
So 5-6 person ensemble casts was
Yeah.
kind of where we were with sitcoms at the time. And they went, you need 2 more. And so the writers went back and they were like, okay, we'll have the Indian astronomer guy who can't talk to women, and we'll have the creepy little fucking engineer kid. And they wrote those 2 characters. And then they refilmed the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the show that we have today. Favorite TV show pilot? Favorite or best? That's a good question.
Both.
Damn. My favorite pilot.
Doesn't matter what airline.
Actually, I think I'm going to give you 3 in no particular order.
That's fair.
The West Wing, which has one of the best pilots I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Another Sorkin project, The Newsroom.
That was a good one.
Phenomenal pilot episode. How I Met Your Mother had a really good pilot episode. Really good pilot episode.
It did. It did.
Trying to go back to the 90s now. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a really good pilot episode. That was a really, really good pilot episode.
Interesting collection of choices.
Those are the ones that pop in off the top of my head. And I get I love the pilot. I love the pilot for The West Wing. All right, old man Uru, I want to know your answer.
The answer.
Oh, what's the answer?
That is a very Uru way to say it.
Pete, what do you think?
Usually whenever I watch shows, like I start watching a new show, new to me, I'll turn it on, the first episode, and immediately be like, oh, it's a pilot episode. I just don't. I don't know. It makes me feel weird. What? Scrubs? I think I remember enjoying the pilot episode of Scrubs.
Okay.
That's the only one that's. I don't even remember what happened into it, but I remember watching it and being like, "It's a pilot episode I don't hate."
Yes.
The
X-Files. The X-Files did have a good pilot episode.
You're right. That is the answer. That's a very good one.
In my opinion, what a pilot should do is it should very clearly establish the character and settings to where I understand what's happening here. The reason I give How I Met Your Mother so much credit is, at the end of that episode, again, taking off the part where in season 6 everybody kind of lost their minds, everything on How I Met Your Mother is good through season 5. Season 6 is where it starts to go off the rails. Season 6 is still pretty decent. 7, 8, 9 was actually a pretty good season, but the ending was garbo.
That ending.
Right, was freaking garbo. At the end of episode 1 of How I Met Your Mother, at the end of the pilot episode, you very clearly understand all 5 of these characters. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You understand who they are and what they're doing. Right? I did not see the Wonder Woman pilot with Adrian Palicki. That's an interesting casting choice. That's a really interesting casting choice. We'll go a couple more minutes because we started late. West Wing, very similar. You understand all of the characters, the main characters in the West Wing, right out the gate, right? You understand who they are and the kind of people doing that. Is there a website I can shop at to support y'all? Yeah, gamersheavenpnw.com.
Gamersheavenpnw.com.
Their TikTok chat. I never got into Scrubs. Scrubs was not one of my favorites.
It was a good one. I enjoyed it.
Game of Thrones is another one that they filmed 2 pilots of.
I do remember hearing about that.
They filmed the pilot, and HBO went, nope, do it again. There was another HBO series that went to pilot that ended up getting scrapped completely. Like HBO was like, nope, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Not happening. Before they did House of the Dragon. So they will film pilots and then shelve them.
Oh, 2 thoughts. Sir Yubnub, I love pilots for cartoons and seeing the animation always changes. Yes, I do enjoy that too. One of them that changed quite dramatically, the main character, was Infinity Train. Very, very good.
What's a show that everyone loves that you are like, nope? There's a bunch, actually. So my wife watches a lot of these, and they're all very popular shows. I put it into the classification of rich people doing crappy things to each other.
Yeah.
Right? Succession is one that I just couldn't. Yellowstone. Like, Yellowstone's big. Yellowstone's really big right now. I've watched a little bit of it, and near as I can tell, it's just rich people doing shitty things to each other. If that's the premise of your show, Entourage, good example of rich people doing crappy things to each other, I need somebody to root for, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
Right? I need somebody in the show that I'm like, I want you to come out on top. Right?
Yeah.
If I go through a show and everybody is just kind of crappy,
yeah,
I lose it.
Breaking Bad, really?
Breaking Bad's hard for me because, again, I think that Breaking Bad is one of the most well-made shows ever.
Is it the pacing?
But yeah, I don't care for it. It actually, Breaking Bad, I put in the same category as Sons of Anarchy, where it needs to last about 3 seasons and then I'm done. Because eventually, because you continuously have to ratchet up the stakes, it eventually gets to the point where I'm like, it's just horrible now. Like, everything sucks.
I really like Breaking Bad. Last season, split season, But, I mean, I'm glad they got off the horse early. Mm-hmm. I say early being like, there's season 5, part 1, and part 2. 6 seasons. But whenever they were like, it's coming to an end, I was like, that's probably good.
Sons of Anarchy started great. It started great. And right around season 3, 4, because they kept having to ratchet up the stakes, it got to the point where I just couldn't believe it anymore.
Uru, same. Everybody's told me about The Wire, and I'm like, cool. and it's got that early 2000s pace to it.
It's very much a show of its time.
I've watched.
I want to say that was the 90s.
I think it was 2004 because it was after The Sopranos, if I'm not mistaken, because The Sopranos changed everything. That was late 90s. I've watched the first 2 seasons of The Sopranos, but kind of the same thing of like, I have to be doing something else.
Oh, you're right. The Wire was 2002.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those shows that, again, kind of had to keep ratcheting where I eventually lose stuff. Like, I really liked Mad Men when it first started.
That would be my answer to the show everyone loves, but you're like, no.
I liked Mad Men when it first started, get to about season 3, and I was like, nope, I'm done now. Done. Over.
I don't know what it is. It's just... Yeah.
What's a show that everybody else dislikes that you really appreciate?
I mean, there's so many now. Like, we watch so much Alien and Bigfoot stuff. But, okay, we'll take that and set it to the side. Let me think for a second.
Thank you for the bits.
Thank you for the biddies. Appreciate you. We'll see you soon. A show that everyone hates that I like. I have to dig deep, because whenever it comes to this, I don't usually, like, bring it up. What about you?
All of the DC stuff on the CW. I absolutely adore that. A lot of people are like, this is stupid. And I'm like, I don't care. I love it. I fucking adore it. Okay. No, I mean, nobody watched those shows. Like, the CW, they were never super high. I mean, they were good ratings for the CW. And there's lots of critiques, like artistic critiques you can make of those shows, but I love them.
See, I feel the opposite because I hear people raving about them all the time, and I'm like, I'm not really a CW fan.
Again, my opinion, they're one of the best representations of DC comic characters I've seen in live action.
That's what I've heard from multiple people. They're like, the CW verse is great. I'm like,
It does go off the rails, and again, I think it needed to end about 2 years sooner. But it was good.
I'm trying to think of a show that everybody dislikes that I like. I mean, I grew up... So your lore is Star Wars. My lore is Dragon Ball.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, it's too long. For now, I'm like, yeah, I know.
See, there you go. There's somebody shitting on the Arrowverse. Told you. Key West.
You hear people raving about them because you work at GH.
See, you're a wrestling guy. Did you watch the one? What was the one that Hulk Hogan was in back in the '90s? Tropic Thunder? No.
Thunder in Paradise.
Thunder in Paradise.
Okay, so I was of an age, I was like 9 or 10. But yeah, Thunder in Paradise would come on after Monday Nitro. So of course I watched it. Of course I watched it.
Hulk Hogan.
I loved it as a kid, and yeah. Thunder in Paradise. Thunder in Paradise. Yes.
I don't think I've ever watched Key West.
I've never seen it.
I
don't even know what it is.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those. Again, there's a bunch of those shows that are great. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my one. There's a lot of people who think the Arrowverse is crap. Yeah, we're going deep cut with Thunder in Paradise.
Masaki, what was it? Masaki mentioned the Flash, the CW Flash. I think it was Ace that told me that it starts out with like, he says in the narration, like, I'm just a simple forensic scientist. It's like, it's not simple, but okay. That made me laugh pretty good.
Yeah.
There you go. There's my rendition of Thunder in Paradise for you. Also, Commando, which Hulk Hogan was in.
What was that one? Cool. UCM Masters. It was like this one martial arts show that was just ridiculous. It was on in the 90s.
American Gladiators?
No, it was literally like a pseudo fake.
Was it the bowl? Because Chuck Norris had a fighting league that was in a bowl shaped.
No, I can't
remember
what it is. I'll have to look.
Kung Fu?
I'll have to look. There was some... Man, the 90s were an interesting time for television.
It was great. Everything was spelled with a Z at the end. What was the
WMAC, yes. WMAC Masters. Masaki knows. That was it. It was the World Martial Arts Council. It was oh my God, it was ridiculous.
Now I have to see.
WMAC Masters. Thank you, Masaki.
That's an image. It's got a dragon. Oh, this is great.
Yes.
It's on 4Kids Entertainment.
Yeah, no,
What?
it was really bad.
This is awesome.
Oh, it was really, really bad. Ghost pilot and a rich guy trying to redeem himself before he dies. No. Don't remember that one.
I only had basic broadcast TV until like 10.
There you go. That's one of my guilty pleasures. The original Mortal Kombat movie. I love that movie. Okay.
Pretty great. Hey,
And that soundtrack was fucking banger.
it was. It really was. Also, shout out to like the effects for Goro at the time.
Oh,
for
yeah.
what you could do. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh man. There was another one on my mind, but I can't remember.
Yeah. There was some good deep cuts. You know what show did not age well? Saved by the Bell.
I never got into that one as a kid.
Oh no, it did not.
Boy Meets World is the superior one anyway.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Boy Meets World.
So good.
Does anyone else feel the world is diminished without Randy Savage in it?
I do feel that way. I have 2 pieces of art of Randy Savage in my house, actually. I got one of them commissioned from an artist who's no longer with us, but I got it commissioned, and at my old IT job, I stuck that on the wall next to my desk, which it's right here for me. They all have to look at it daily. Yeah, they're just like, why is it so big? I'm like, because it deserves to be that big. That's why, because it's Randy Savage.
There you go. All right, everybody. I think that's where we're going to call the show tonight. Now that we've gotten to the Randy Savage portion of the thing. Thank you for joining us today. We had a lot of fun. Again, check the YouTube channel tomorrow. We might do something if SAG decides to go on strike. If we see something crazy later today. Yeah, we love you all. Aside from that, come in and draft tonight. Don't forget, trivia is tomorrow.
Collect the trivia bounty.
So I'll be putting some stuff about that in Discord later today. And yeah, we have your choice to draft. I think we've still got some Dragons of Tarkir floating around here somewhere. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye. The ending song.
The ending song. Let's do this again. Thunder in paradise. Jacka, jacka, jacka. Ogun's arms are nice. Thunder in paradise. Big old muscles gonna get on a boat and go thrice. Bye.